what's really hard too is in the era of COVID where we're lied to about everything and we have no reason to trust technology or government or big institutions. There's a real problem because
Hmm.
we still need these things, but we do have like a legitimate reason not to trust them.
Yeah.
So what do? We're at a crossroads, right? We
Right.
say, well, we can't get rid of these institutions because we'll all die. But we can't just blindly trust these institutions because we'll all die, right? So we
Right.
have to kind of we have to teach ourselves, how do I cut through, and see what is this all about, what's going on, what is going to bring our country back into alignment where we are a healthy and prosperous and growing nation. That's why degrowth is such um, a watchword for me, because anytime people say you have to stop growing, that is the minute that you say like, okay, we're gonna die. Our
Yeah.
civilization is gonna die.
Yeah, it's so interesting that the Cuba problem was more of they were forced to deindustrialize and to go into this organic farming, but Sri Lanka's issues almost the organic stuff is being pushed on them, but but it's causing one of the farming issue, and what we're seeing throughout Europe is that it's the big corporations that are soaking up the family farms. And we're seeing this even in the United States. The family farms are going away in lieu of these big corporate farms, the big industrial farming coming in. And that's where you see the push against, especially on the right? We're seeing more of that. I don't want to be reliant on big industrial farming. China's buying up all of our farmland, or Bill Gates, and I don't really want to be,
Which is funny because, Canada owns most of our farmland. China
I
is
mean,
like
either way, a
a
foreign
distant like
country.
eighth.
Yeah.
Like all these other countries own more farmland. It's such a common anti-China talking
Yeah, to
point that
say that
China
well,
owns
but they do. I
all our
mean,
farmland.
surely not all of our farming, but a good chunk of it. And Bill Gates owns a big chunk of it in Canada. I mean, that's even a problem
For
if
Ted Turner.
whoever it is. I mean,
Yeah.
any one entity, or especially foreign countries. But either of them could be bad. I mean, whether it be a big corporation or a foreign government, but certainly being reliant on either of those is a giant problem. So we're kind of in this conundrum, because I see your point. So what your point is, you think industrial farming is good. That ultimately industrial
Yeah.
farming feeds the masses. That's how we have been able to grow to however many billions of people we have on the planet today, is because of
Yeah.
the industrial revolution. And now what the powers that be are doing is they're trying to they're using climate policies, green policies, organic policies in order to in order to collapse or make us. What would you say they're doing exactly?
They're controlling the situation, right? Anytime there's a good technology, if they can't utterly destroy it, they take it over, right? And they control it for their own benefit. This idea that we're losing all these family farms, the family farm thing is somewhat of a myth as well, because there are certain laws where you can say you're technically a family farm, even though you're a giant operation. Um, there's certain legal loopholes, and a lot of farm workers are just illegal, so they can just claim that the only legal employees they have are their six family members, and then they're a family farm with an army of immigrants working on the farm,
Yeah.
doing the kind of work that Americans rightfully don't want to do. Nobody wants to do hard labor, right? Nobody
Right.
wants to go out and toil in the field. If you have a backyard garden, you might know how hard it is to go out there and weed all your plants. So it's a lot of people don't truly understand agriculture in our country anymore, and part of that is because we're so separated from it that
Hmm.
all these kind of romantic ideas about what agriculture is have seeped into our culture, and people like these ideas of being a peasant. That cottage core is kind of in right now, of being like the milkmaid with her six children, and which is all fine. And if it's your thing and you're into it, like I'm totally like, I'm not gonna say you shouldn't do your thing. Everybody should live their life the way they want. But as a nation, we can't feed people that way, right? We
Right.
can't feed mass amounts of people. And the thing is, we export a lot of food too. It's not like we have a surplus of food, and we use it to feed other countries as well. And we wouldn't even have to if we let other countries, develop like Africa that wants to develop and wants to use industrial farming and inputs that actually improve the yield of farming and make it easier to farm.
Yeah.
Because the less human and animal nature or inputs and the less chemical inputs, the less you're putting into farming and the more you're getting out, the better your results, right?
Yeah.
And the more time you have for other things like being creative and building roads and learning more about science and traveling to space, right? Which is unlimited resources. There's so many resources out in space that are untapped, and we used to be a nation that went to space, and now we don't do that anymore. Why don't we do that anymore? You know?
Yeah, it's I mean, well, by the way, on one hand, I think, okay, I do think that we need the industrial farming in order to keep us fed, but then again, maybe we don't because we're really fat. So maybe we need less food. Maybe we could survive on less food if we just had smaller amounts and it was healthier food and it wasn't all of this processed food that we use. A giant amount of our farming and the industrialized farming goes towards all of these processed foods that we then eat. All the cookies and the crackers and the
Yeah,
chips and
there's
all
so
that
many
stuff.
legitimate criticisms, and I come from that world too. I
Hmm.
watched the King Corn documentary. I don't know if you've seen this, where they show how much of our food is made out of corn and corn
Yeah.
syrup. And I discovered the paleo diet in my late 20s, and I lost weight and I felt great, and I was like, "Ah, I'm so into this." And like I get it. There's so many legitimate criticisms of or the low fat diets, right? These low
Hmm.
fat diets that screwed up our health. There are so many legitimate criticisms, but we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, right? We don't want to say, well, then it's all bad. All industrial farming is bad. We need to go back to the land. There's a lot of food that's more nutritious because we've engineered it to be that way, right? We want enough food. We want healthy
Sure.
food. We want the best of both worlds.
I mean, I understand that. I totally agree that these policies, these sort of green, whether and I don't trust their motivations. Kind of like what you're pointing out with this is a tool of the global elites just to control us. I agree that I think there maybe was some original concern, about climate change that I think is, I think climate change is real in that yes, the climate. I know it's real. That's obvious, factual, scientific. We know
Most
for a
people, I
fact.
think, yeah,
Well, we know for a fact that the Earth has changed many times
right.
throughout the lifetime of the Earth. At some points, it was fully covered in ice, and at other points, it was a green Earth with no ice on it. I mean, the Earth has gone through a variety of changes, so the climate is changing. That's just part of Earth's history. Whether or not we're controlling that change, how much control humans have over that change is where people have the debate, right? It's how much are we, although it's kind of led towards people just totally denying climate change in general and thinking it's just not a real thing. It's not, well, of course it's real. I mean, we just look through all of the different millions of years of the Earth's life and we see the change. We know that the change has
Right,
happened.
right.
Um, how much we have to do with it, how much animals and like cows have to do with climate change, I'm not 100% certain because the elites have co-opted the whole entire story and they're now just using it as a way to keep down nations, like you say, keep developing nations from developing by saying, oh, you're not, we did that during our industrial revolution, sorry about that. It turned out it was a disaster, all of the burning of coal was just like a giant disaster, and so you're not allowed to do it now that you're trying to develop. Like we
Well,
developed,
think
now we're a
about it in
first world country.
reverse. Think about it in reverse. What is a cleaner burning fuel? Is fossil fuels or wood or dung, right? We've actually gone in the direction of being cleaner burning, in our history. Nuclear is the cleanest burning fuel uranium we've ever discovered.
Hmm.
Um, and the idea that can flip everything on its head is, yeah, what if we're having it, and what if we can control the weather and that's a good thing? I don't think that we can right now, but what if we could? Why is that such a bad thing? Maybe we can engineer the weather to be better for the planet. And this idea would blow these people's minds because they say, well, human beings can only be a negative impact on the planet. And the underlying theme that they're all operating on is that
Yeah.
human beings are a virus, are bad for the planet, that there's too many of us, and that simply is just the wrong assumption to operate under.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I mean because they are trying to control the weather by the way. I mean we do have, they do have mechanisms where they're trying to prevent rain or cause rain or they're doing a variety of things now to try to control weather and that is viewed as negative.
Irrigation,
Right.
right?
So but I mean I guess I see your point in that you're kind of asserting that these things have been demonized, like industrialized farming has been demonized, or like controlling the weather has been demonized. When in reality, it might not be so bad. There are some positives to these things that we have to also be looking at. So, like industrialized farming feeds the masses. But then the question is, who should control industrialized farming? And the problem with industrialized farming is that obviously it's going to cause you're going to have like a Bill Gates figure who just wants to make a bunch of money or whatever. And so they're going to lower the quality of the food supply in order to expand the food supply and expand their profit margin. And that's not actually healthy. That's actually killing us. It's shortening our lives. We're eating poisons. We're eating genetically modified foods, things that aren't natural. Now, most of our foods have been sweetened. We're naturally, like they grow watermelon to be sweeter. They grow corn to be sweeter, right? They enhance them with natural sugars even.
Yeah.
They're not even
I mean,
adding.
we've been modifying our food since the dawn of humanity. Watermelons didn't just sprout out of the ground. We genetically engineered them that way even before we knew what genes and genetics were. We crossbred different species of plants for the traits that we wanted. All this has been happening throughout history, and that's why we have the food that we have today. It's all genetically modified. We're just doing it in a more precise way now because we can actually look at things on a molecular level. We have
Mhm.
more knowledge of how science works. So everything in this grocery store is technically genetically modified. Um, it's just there's certain lines that governing bodies will put on labels and say, well, we stamp this as GMO or not GMO or organic or not. I mean, can you tell me the difference between organic and not? There's all these different um, rules and regulations. A lot of organic farmers complain because the runoff from the stream will contaminate their farms or the air or things like that. So where does the line, where do you cross the line of what is organic and what is not? And the truth is there is no delineation for what is organic or what is GMO or this or that or the other. It's all kind of an institution that's created to kind of control markets, right? And say, okay, you get this stamp. It's like a branding. It's like you go to the store and it has the little label on it and they get to sell it for a little bit more money. It's kind of an artisanal product.
But now what they're doing is they're trying to take it. I mean, with industrialized farming, they're now trying to. I mean, they are pushing that on us in order to control us. So,
Yeah.
it's like we're in this conundrum because what they've. Yes, I understand how ripping away the industrialized farming is harmful for developing nations for sure, and even for us. Like but that's the point. I mean, the industrialized farming is behind that. It's the industrialized farming is the mechanism for that control. Like you want food, you want to have a lot of food, then you need industrialized farming. Well, who controls the industrialized farming? It's certainly not me or you. So if we're not controlling it, somebody's controlling it. And then those people that control that industrialized farming have a lot of control over you and me.
Well, yeah, here's what comes in a lot is that nations will try to nationalize their industries, the ones that are especially important for society to survive, like
Right.
agriculture. And this is where the powers that be come in and say, no, you can't do that. You can't nationalize your industry. That's authoritarian and you're, bad or whatever. They come up with all these excuses of why these developing countries can't nationalize their industries and actually use their own resources.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this clip from the full Kim Iverson show. That's right, this is just a clip. If you want the full show, you can go to KimIversonShow.com and you can watch Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern for about 1 hour. It's totally free. Check it out, KimIversonShow.com. Thanks for watching.